going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gaelic Gridiron podcast. We are now officially halfway through the NFL regular season and fresh off the first weekend of NFL football in November. It is great to be here with you. Jimmy English, joined as always by Stephen Kearns and Kevin Kelly. A lot of bare chins abound. I had a good laugh when the boys logged on and I saw Twist. I think, Twist, it's the first time I've ever actually seen you without some sort of facial hair, and we've been friends for a long, long time now. And I believe that your son was having a great laugh at your expense. So hopefully we get some donations in to soften the blow a little bit. How you doing, man?
Doing good. I was actually trying to think in the 10 plus years we know each other from playing football way back when. I don't think I ever shaved because I was like, the football season in Ireland is always cold and wet. You need something to pad your chin under the chin strap. Other than that, good. Football this weekend was good. There's some crazy games, a lot of talking points, a lot of hot seats, a lot of seats heating up, and more recently, a seat somebody got ejected from their organization with the Saints. We'll touch on that.
A lot going on after a crazy, it just seems like, Kev, that every weekend of the NFL so far in the 9 weeks that we have now had the pleasure of watching has been absolutely insane. And as the man who is responsible for the three bare chins at the minute, I'll check in with yourself and see how you're doing. And guys, if you are interested in supporting our cause, you can find us on the November fundraising page. So please do donate. Kev, what's going on, man?
Yeah, doing good. Had a pretty long weekend, so I actually didn't stay up for the Vikings game last night. Now, when I say I didn't stay up, I had the stream on while I was asleep. So anytime anything happened, I was like throwing the head over. So, and I was glad to see the Vikings get the win, and yeah, doing good. Other than that, just had a good long weekend. Had a nice time down in Mayo. So.
Well, it was a momentous weekend for Irish American football fans as Derry's Jude made his long-awaited debut for the New York Giants. He was perfect in his debut. He had one 31-yard field goal and a couple of good touchbacks, booting the ball into the end zone there. And he also had the extra point and a touchdown. And I think it's just fantastic to see Ireland really being put on the map in terms of American football and the talent we have here. And when the news kind of came out on Friday night, Twist, that Greg Joseph was out injured and speculation began to boil that McAtamney might indeed be promoted from the practice squad, and then he was. It is fantastic to see him succeed and have a positive impact on the game, despite the overall outcome for the Giants. But what do we think about his performance in general, Twist? He definitely gave a good account of himself, although, not against the toughest opponents in the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really say too much against the opponent, but being perfect on points scored with the extra point in the field goal, is good. The pressure is always going to be there. New York, regardless of whether it's MetLife or if it's in a dome, MetLife is always hard to kick in. You look at it this way, the New York fans are going to make it known whether they like you or not.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to shout abuse you, hurl abuse at you. So the fans there would have, let you know if they didn't like his performance. So it was good to see that there was nothing negative about him. The touchbacks you mentioned you'd like to see him try and land the ball into the landing zone to avoid that, but that's something that will come with experience. It's for his first
exactly a rookie NFL kicker. I think the fact that he was, I'd say his instructions were, when he was going out for kickoffs, were just bang the ball as far as you can and avoid any sort of run back to avoid any sort of trouble. But Kev, he was promoted from the practice squad. There was part of me was kind of thinking, okay, it's a tight turnaround for the Giants to actually go out and find a substitute kicker. Do you think now they're likely to stick with Jude given his positive performance, or in now the 6 days until Sunday, are they likely to try and bring somebody else in externally?
Well, I mean, look, the trade deadline is tomorrow evening, so it's going to have to be happening between now and tomorrow. So you would kind of hope that, having given himself a good enough account of, kicking for 100%, like you can't really
We're
argue
having
with that.
technical difficulties there with Kevin. Twist, I'll bang that question over to you instead. We were talking about this before before we came on. Given his, I mean, for a rookie that just his first ever NFL action, he did give a great account of himself. So in some regards, the Giants might be better off to stick with him, given his familiarity with the offense, and the fact that he's been there on the practice squad and has been learning from the team the whole time along.
Yeah, like a lot of people forget that just because you're in the practice squad doesn't mean you're not getting reps. You're getting reps in general by playing as the opposing scout team. Like so,
Mm.
yeah, I mean he's a kicker, like he's just there doing kicks and stuff. Even in practice squad, he's going to line up and try and do plays that, for example, the Carolina kickers would be doing, just to scout special teams out, to help special teams. He has got the practice and the leg. I know I've said like the Giants have made questionable moves in the past, and they could, in theory, bring somebody in before the game in Germany, but you're risking then, does the player you bring in have a passport? First of all, can he get out of the States to Germany? How rusty is he? Has he been like practicing? Is he someone off a practice squad? Is he someone walking the streets? It'd make more sense for the Giants to keep Jude in place because of that. Because the last thing you want is to bring somebody in, fly him to the other side of the world, and have him, miss extra points that could decide the game.
Well, it's interesting, the whole thing, because when Graham Gano went down injured, and there was the whole furore started in the first instance that, oh, here we go, here's Jude's opportunity, and then the kick that they signed Joseph, and now he has been promoted. So hopefully, they would give him this opportunity over the next kind of four games minimum, to prove himself on the big stage. And okay, he might have been limited in terms of opportunities yesterday against the Commanders, but hopefully now, moving forward, and especially, I mean, it would be fantastic to see him up close and personal in Germany this weekend. But I think personally, the right move for me from the Giants is to keep giving him more and more opportunities and keep giving him room to learn. Okay, he showed that that he's able to handle the responsibility. He's able to make field goals. He's able to do all the things that you would expect from a kicker. So why not give him a bit more rope now and a bit more scope moving forward?
Well, we've seen it on Sunday against the Commanders. Everyone expected the Commanders to go out there and walk all over the Giants. Daniel Jones went out there and he played like his job was on the line, because,
which it
let's
is.
be honest, his job was on the line.
Which it is. And Brian Daboll actually came out today. I saw on Twitter earlier a tweet from Alan Schefter that Daboll has come out and supported Daniel Jones publicly. At least he's not considering any quarterback changes at the minute, given the fact that I think it's Tyrod Taylor is his backup. I can't really blame him.
Yeah.
For that, but he said there's no change in quarterback rotation, first team reps in practice. So as of right now, Daniel Jones is still the starting quarterback.
Well, he showed some life. He did throw a touchdown in MetLife for the first time in 600 plus days. Like the Kansas City Chiefs won two Super Bowls between his last touchdown thrown and the one thrown on Sunday. That's how big of a drought it was at home for him to throw a touchdown. He had a crazy stat line at halftime, 4 of 6 for 0 yards and a touchdown. But he went out and he kept the game against the Commanders a lot closer. He put 20 plus points up on the Commanders. Not something a lot of people expected. A lot of people expected the usual Commanders go up 30, maybe 40. Daniels gets sat for the rest of the game because he's hurt. They had to stay out and they had to keep slugging it against the Giants. So maybe Daniel Jones has finally realized that, his job is on the line, and if he can keep that mentality and play like that for the rest of the season, maybe the Giants won't be last in the division. Maybe they won't be one of the worst teams in the NFC. Are they going to the playoffs? Very slim chance, if at all. But they're not going to be a laughing stock if he starts playing like this more consistently.
I definitely thought he played better, and he, like you say, he was really playing like his job depended on it. But at the same time, he had 0 passing yards somehow at halftime, and yet he still had a passing touchdown and was 4 for 6. I wasn't really paying attention to the game other than keeping an eye on Jude's performance. But that's just a crazy stat to me.
it's like one of those crazy stats. Like Bettis, I think, had a crazy stat line: 3 carries for 1 yard and 3 touchdowns, like before with the Steelers, because they were all one goalless. So there's you'll always get these crazy stat lines, but like for just to circle back to Jude and just to like finish off on the Giants, because this isn't the Giants cast.
No, I don't
But
know where Kev has disappeared to. But by the way, we'll try and get him back on. He was blaming dodgy Wi-Fi earlier, so hopefully he can get back in. But if not, myself and Twist will soldier on.
we'll soldier on.
We're well used to talking shite together.
Yeah. But Jude is like, I think I've seen it. He's the first Irish-born player in, I think it's nearly 40 years to score or play for the New York Giants. So that alone, I think,
I think it was even to score points in the NFL in almost 40 years.
Yeah, there's that as well. So I mean, I think as bad as the Giants have been in decisions around players, I think his job is safe for another week as kicker. And if he goes and puts on a big show against the Panthers, because, I mean, the Panthers aren't great, you're going to expect a lot of PATs. Hopefully, if Daniel Jones plays as well, he's been playing as of Sunday, you should get a lot of field goals. If he remains perfect, he's younger. He's less experienced than Graham Gano, but, if he puts on a good enough show, it might be hard for Graham Gano to get back into the role. So he could end up being the starter.
So it is the Panthers and the Giants in Allianz Arena in Munich this coming Sunday, the last of this year's international series. I really feel bad for German fans because this is a basement game between two dungeon dwellers of the NFC at the minute. And, the Panthers, they looked slightly better against the Saints yesterday. I want to talk about that a bit more because obviously the news broke today being Monday, that Dennis Allen lost his job. He was fired over yesterday's performance. Bryce Young did look a little bit better. And I don't know if that's just a once-off or maybe similarly to Daniel Jones, he knows that he could be on the line in terms of a trade target. And he's playing for his career and for his job with the Panthers. But given that these two terrible teams let's be honest, two terrible teams are facing off this coming Sunday, who has the edge, Twist, in the international fixture?
You got to go with the. I was going to say you got to go with the hot hand, the Giants, but like the Panthers came out and they surprised everybody beating the Saints. I mean, them beating the Saints cost the Saints their head coach and their offensive coordinator. Like, that's how big of a disappointment it was to lose to. Sorry, not the coordinator. That was the coordinator, the Raiders. Sorry, they lost their head coach. But I would say the Giants, but Daniel Jones has been so inconsistent. I mean, one good game does not make a franchise quarterback. So I think the Panthers will slightly have the edge. Like maybe Bryce Young being sat behind Andy Dalton for, 5 or 6 games.
Kind of woke him up a little bit.
I think it was, part of it is, he was a rookie when he got handed the franchise, handed the reins. He had a terrible rookie season, partly not his fault, partly his, so like 50-50. But that pressure was carried on into this, like his sophomore year. And generally you see a rookie go from a great start to a sophomore slump. He just remained in the slump.
Yeah.
Got benched, Dalton's in. I think it may have given him perspective, like give him time to like mentally get there, because he looked a lot better on Sunday against the Saints. They beat the Saints. No one again, like the Giants hanging with the Commanders. No one expected the Panthers to beat the Saints. So
it was also Derek Carr's first game back after I think 2 or 3 games off. So the fact that you're not beating Spencer Rattler, you're beating Derek Carr, an established NFL quarterback as well. That makes it all the more impressive, I think. Yeah,
it is like, you're going out there and you're dealing with somebody who, was a former high-round pick with the Raiders, was a fractured fibia away from bringing the Raiders to like possibly a division, if not an AFC division game, or if not the AFC championship game. He was that hot the year he went down with his fractured fibia. But you go out, you beat someone like that, yeah, absolutely. You get the confidence in your team. That's the type of win he needed. Like, he needed to come off the bench. He needed to win. I know Kev has said previously that it's the backup effect. The backup comes in, wins the game. then collapses.
Yeah.
Bryce Young from the backup, he is the franchise, unless Carolina come in and say otherwise, he is the face of the franchise. So I wouldn't say it's the backup bounce. I'd say he may have, in his time on the bench, may have found himself. We'll see on Sunday anyway.
Myself and Kev are actually heading over to that game in Munich. I'll be there from Saturday. Kev will be joining me on Sunday morning. I'm just going to pause here quickly and see if we can get Kev back on, because I do want to preview that game with him as well and get his thoughts. So we'll be right back in 2 seconds. So I have unsuccessfully tried to re-engage with Kevin Kelly, but unfortunately the Wi-Fi in County Kildare is dog shit and he is unable to log back on. So Kev, we miss you. We look forward to having you back on next week. In the meantime, myself and Twist are going to soldier on here. We're going to talk a bit more about, oh my God, he's back from the dead. What?
It's like the
I have literally just buried you and he's risen from the dead. Just in the nick of time as well, Kev. We were talking about the upcoming weekend's game in Germany, which myself and yourself are attending. Panthers and Giants in Munich, Kev. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the game wasn't expected to be, not on my radar at least, a big, exciting game, and it hasn't really lifted much further than where I was expecting at the start of the season. But I don't know, Bryce Young kind of showed a little bit of potential last weekend, and maybe he has something up his sleeve. But I have absolutely no faith in Daniel Jones doing anything of note. So, look, I'd like to see the Panthers have a good game, but as far as the Giants go, I really like. It'd be cool to see Malik Neighbors pull off some cool tricks and stuff. But again, when you have Daniel Jones throwing to him, like what much can he do on his own? You know, I do feel for him, like with such talent that he has. You know, I'm surprised that he's not making more of a fuss. You know,
I'm very much looking forward to getting to Germany for the first time and experiencing an NFL game there. And you know, from what I've seen and heard, German NFL fans are some of the best in the world. So from that aspect, it's going to be great. Looking forward to sampling some local German drinks as
I'll
well.
send you a list
of the alcoholic variety on the Saturday night, but possibly on the Sunday after, we'll see. But in terms of the actual game itself, I was saying to Twist, Kev, it's two basement dwellers in this one, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's not even one of those like it's not going to be anything to write home about now. I know that's exactly what we're going over there, to literally write home about it, but you know, like you said, I think just getting over there and experience, like obviously we were in London for the Vikings Jets game, and you were over for the week before that with the Bears and the Jags, you know, but it's hard to see this one being anything other than a fan experience, you know. I really think.
Well, which is no harm really, because at the end of the day, these games are designed to grow the NFL international fan base. So like that's we'll go over. We'll make the most of it. We'll enjoy the atmosphere and the buzz. But you know, talking about Bryce Young and the Panthers there, I want to wrap this up quickly and get into and this kind of ties us into, I suppose, some of the other talking points that have emerged since yesterday. Dennis Allen got the boot after yesterday's 1-point defeat to the Saints. As the Saints head coach to the Panthers. And is this a case, Twist, you think, where he was maybe scapegoated a little bit?
I don't think so. I mean, like, you have to kind of study the Saints, you know, the start of the season. They were coming out red hot. The Derek Carr's looked like an MVP player. The team looks like they were going to go start steamrolling through the NFC. And then he just collapsed. And it wasn't even gradual. It was like Looney Tunes, Wile E. Coyote walked off the edge of the cliff and looked down and was like, uh-oh, and just fell and has collapsed. I think the firing is justified. Like, up until that point, the Panthers were pretty much the laughingstock of, you know, the league in general. Like, you know, your franchise quarterback's been benched. You've got Andy Dalton in relief. You know, your team is falling apart. You trade away Deontay Johnson, you know, to the Ravens. Basically try to look like you're selling up, and then you go and you beat the Saints.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was justified. Like, you can't have that big of a drop off in a professional like sports league, lose to a bad team that's probably the worst in the league at that point,
100%.
and not assume your job is safe.
But talking about the other coaches that could be on the verge of getting a firing as well, Mike McCarthy is in dire straits in Dallas after the latest defeat to the Falcons yesterday, Kev. I mean, he himself and Matt Eberflus have to be absolutely sweating now at this stage.
I think Eberflus maybe more so than Mike McCarthy, purely on the basis that Dallas is Dallas and Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones. He's not going to admit that he was wrong, and he's never going to admit that he's wrong. So I think in that sense, the heat seems to be more under Eberflus at the minute than it is under McCarthy. But it's hard to know. At some point, the fans have to start making a bit of a rumble there in Dallas. So you never know what's really going to happen. But I would like to see something change for Dallas because this shouldn't be how their season goes.
Well, we all know that if the fans start having an effect on Jerry Jones's wallet and his pockets in terms of attendance and not showing up to games and not buying their merchandise, and I think at that stage he might start to listen. I mean, he was defiant in the face of his own media quite recently, but even he came out and said that he was shocked by the loss just gone. So it's not a good time to be a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Not a good time to be Mike McCarthy either. He now has, because it's just been announced that Dak Prescott's been placed on IR. So it's official. Cooper Rush is there to secure McCarthy's job. And the next 4 games, which is the minimum Dak is out, Cooper Rush will have to face the Eagles, the Commanders, the Texans, and the Giants. If he doesn't win all 4 of those, or if he only splits those games, that's pretty much Dallas' season gone.
Yeah.
And then Jerry Jones will, I have a feeling, pull the trigger. But I think Kev is right. Eberflus is more on the hot seat. The Bears haven't won a road game since 2021. And they went to Arizona in a freak hailstorm that caused them to close the roof and lost. They got beat down by the Cardinals. They even got scored on in prevent defense again for the second week in a row.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those teams in trouble, and I'm quite surprised at the Bears and their performance yesterday, because I mean I saw Caleb Williams play in person in London, and they look good, and granted it was against a poor Jets team, but the Cardinals did really run roughshod over them yesterday, Kev.
Yeah, look, I don't really know what to say. I think there's just sometimes when a team gets kind of ahead of themselves, like they did last week in Washington, and the showboating. I don't want to go back to it again, but it could be a defining moment for their whole season. It could be the point where you're like, that's where their season went to the dogs.
Casting back to that game against the Commanders last week that finished in such dramatic fashion, I'm still watching that replay over and over again. But the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, they didn't have the best or the most flashiest game against the Giants yesterday, but they were still effective. They still won. Jaden Daniels is still Jaden Daniels. He's still on track for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I potentially at this stage, and I'm going to hang my hat on this and call it that the NFC Championship game this year is going to be the Commanders and the Lions, especially 100%, especially after the way they played in a rain-soaked Green Bay yesterday, Kev.
No, the Lions, I've no issue with that side. I don't think that the Commanders are going to have the experience. I can't see. I think it'll just be a similar situation to CJ Stroud and the Texans last year. I think they'll make it as far as they did. Make it a playoff game, and then after that getting beat down. But I just don't foresee them going the whole way to a championship game this year. I think it will take them a year and a year, 2 years to get there.
They're 7-2 for the first time since 1996, and you have a case now where players on the cusp of being traded are now are telling their agents to try and get me into Washington, so it's a complete culture turnaround twist. And you can see it. I mean, the players are playing for Dan Quinn, they're playing for Jaden Daniels, and the whole level of positivity is just unreal.
It is. I mean, like when you have a talented player like the Jaden Daniels going out, literally putting his body on the line, still playing hurt with his ribs, yes, it's a close game against the Giants. We can put that down to injury, to give him an out from that. He is still a rookie. I think I'm with Kev. I don't think he's going to go to the championship game. He may go to the division game, and get knocked off then. But I don't think he could shock us all. And he could prove us all wrong and bring the Commanders, all
Win a
the way,
Lombardi.
to a Lombardi. I doubt that's possible. Not so possible. I doubt that's going to happen. But he's going to, I won't say it's a big test, but he's going to face the punishing, hard-hitting Steelers defense this Sunday. So, it'll be, if he gets hit hard enough by Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, or TJ Watt, is he going to be able to keep playing? Is first of all, and second of all, can he, get around a Steelers defense that's been ball hawking quite a bit lately? Beanie Bishop, Dante Jackson, have been grabbing the balls out of interceptions constantly. That's a big one to watch. But
Kev has a look on his face where he wants to say something.
Well, actually, before Kev has his point, I'm going to say I don't think the NFC Championship game is going to be Lions Commanders. I think we'll all have a different opponent. I think the NFC Championship game is going to be Lions Packers.
I just think that, with the Commanders having Dan Quinn there, I think he's after coming from Dallas. Like, he doesn't have much experience of winning at the divisional level. So, I just see other teams. I don't want to say wanting it more. I think that's like a bad way of saying it, but I think there's other teams that there's coaches with just better experience, more experience. You look at the Rams, right? I obviously they beat the Vikings and then came back and beat the Seahawks this weekend. Now, they're a team that just have a wealth of experience and just some of the best coaches in the league. So
I forgot about the Rams, actually, yeah.
So you have to look at these teams that, like, even if they just squeak in, that's all they need. Again, we say it all the time. You get to the playoffs and then it's a totally new season. You can look at what happened and you can say, oh, look at how well the Lions played up to that. But, it just takes one game. It really just takes one game for a team to get it right. And the Lions could be out. That would more than likely will go through Detroit by the looks of things at the minute. There's still more games to go, but I don't know. I still think that the Vikings have a very good, strong chance with the strength of our schedule for the rest of the season. But
as long as the refs don't keep missing calls against Sam Bradford.
Sam Darnold.
Sam Bradford.
Mixing two quarterbacks.
There's a Rams throwback. Do you know what, actually, speaking of getting names wrong, and I almost felt like tweeting them last night, but I didn't in the end. Red Zone, what's his face? Scott Hansen called Daniel Jones David Jones twice in the space of like 30 seconds, and I'm like, come on, man.
Don't forget about Daniel Jones.
That's about how relevant
like, you have one job, like, come on. As much as I love your
you can't
coverage,
really blame him. Daniel Jones is not
forgettable. That Commanders game for the Steelers is the start of our gauntlet, really. The back half of our season is just absolutely awful. So we're not going to go into that too much, because I am conscious of this becoming a Steelers heavy podcast. We have broached on some of the biggest games in the NFC last weekend. I want to talk about the AFC now a little bit, and the Ravens got their revenge, as we knew they all would after being embarrassed by the Browns, absolutely spanking the Denver Broncos 42-10. Derrick Henry, 2 rushing touchdowns, 109 yards. Lamar Jackson was just continuing his MVP caliber season. In Denver's defense, Kev, what's his face? Brock Purdy, not Brock Purdy. Who am I talking about?
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix had a receiving touchdown from Cortland Sutton. So there were flashes there, but the Ravens were just too much for them to stop.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bo Nix is he's a rookie, right? And he's one of those players that he's fitting so well into the Broncos schemes, and Sean Payton's just doing a great job. I think I did speak about this on one of the podcasts earlier in the season. They just seem to be working out really well together, and you give Sean Payton a couple of years with a kid like that, and who knows where their limit goes. It's exciting for the Broncos, especially after the couple of years they have had. So I like him. I like the look of Bo Nix, but like that, I think just with the Ravens haven't been in the situation they were in the week before, they were just never gonna
Yeah.
not steamroll them. I think.
When you saw Lamar Jackson slamming his helmet at the end of the game, you knew whoever they were up against next were in for a bollocking. And that's exactly what happened to the Broncos. I think at one point Red Zone just stopped showing it because it was just Raven score after Raven score. But like you have to really respect what's going on there. I mean, they are showing resilience, and I think there's no real doubt in my mind that it's gonna. I mean, hopefully the Steelers can stop them and cause an upset there, perhaps. But I honestly do think that the AFC Championship this year again is going to be the Ravens and the Chiefs twist.
I'm still not sold.
Especially after the Texans dropping a game to the Jets on Thursday Night Football. I mean,
Yeah, I know, but I'm still
nobody
not
saw
sold.
that coming.
I'm still not sold on the Ravens. Lamar is great in the regular season. He's not so great in the postseason. Yes, everyone's record is back to zero once you hit the postseason, and one bad snap can send you home. But Lamar's postseason record isn't great until it pains me to say this, but until he wins a Super Bowl, Lamar Jackson in the playoffs isn't great.
What about the Bills, though? Josh Allen is having an
Tyler
absolute
Bass 61-yard field goal to win it in at the end as the clock kind of wound down. That was some game between the Dolphins and the
Josh
Bills.
Allen is making an MVP case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this. I think people are going at a stretch to say that he's an MVP candidate. I don't think he's quite there, just in comparison to Lamar and Jared Goff. I think it's them two in their own world at this minute. Josh Allen, he's playing really good football, but I just don't see him on the same level as them two at the minute.
Yeah, you have to hand it to Jared Goff for going into terrible conditions in Green Bay yesterday and just bossing the Packers, really, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, again, like they've done. I don't. It's hard to see with the NFC, right? Just like with the NFC North, there, we obviously, when I say we, the Vikings really ran the lines really close in US Bank Stadium. Now, granted, it was indoors and it was much favorable conditions, but you have to think that the Packers would have put up a bit more of a fight than they did, because that game wasn't as close as the scoreline even showed.
That was actually the Lions' first outdoor game all season somehow. That's just insane that the Lions have played indoors for the first half of the regular season.
I mean, the Packers really should have had that game. I mean, it was in Lambeau, it was in the rain.
It was cold.
It's cold.
It was like the wind chill was absolutely. It was a bad. It was a Green Bay night if I've ever seen one.
Packers football, and Brian Branch got ejected on the softest call I've ever seen. Like incidental helmet to helmet contact.
Yeah,
it wasn't incidental.
It wasn't targeting. There was no way.
There's no way. He put his helmet down and he went in.
It wasn't targeting.
Even Tom Brady said it wasn't targeting.
It was no.
He didn't launch himself. It was helmet to helmet.
He put his helmet down.
I'll grant you that it was helmet to helmet, and it should have been a personal foul for unnecessary roughness.
It wasn't worth an ejection.
There was no way in hell
even taking their best safety off the field, Jordan Love couldn't beat them.
But then Nakua gets ejected. Did you see that as well?
Yeah, that was a soft punch as well.
Yeah.
But regardless, though, I think they are really just trying to rid the game of that, that stuff. Like, we don't want to see it, Like when
it's an emotional, physical game, and you
understand
tempers flare.
I can understand ridding the helmet to helmet contact because, especially when you have the spotlight for 2 seasons in a row was on Tua because of it. You want to get rid of helmet to helmet. You want to get rid of dangerous.
But did you see the Chris Olave tackle?
Jordan Poyer had a hit in the Dolphins game, and it was much worse than the Brian Branch hit, I think, and he wasn't ejected. He got done for a personal foul. So it's there has to be consistency.
Yeah, and the hit on Chris Olave, no one was ejected for that. That was
to be fair, that was a bit of a suicide ball at the same time. That was
a hospital ball, I do agree, but still, that was horrific. That was a horrific hit. But I can understand them going after the helmet hits with flags. But players are going to push, players are going to shove. That punch by Nakua, I wouldn't call that a punch. If you punch somebody in the helmet, like that's not.
It's going to hurt you more than it will hurt
exactly.
them.
He
This is
deserves
nice
it.
hockey. Like ice hockey, you can punch him in the helmet. It's not really going to do much. Like, but this is like these helmets are designed to withstand blows. You're going to risk breaking your hand as a receiver punching someone full force in the helmet.
It was stupid for Niku because the first thing you're ever taught is if you retaliate, you'll get flagged. He'll be the one who gets done, and he was done. But he shouldn't have been ejected for it, I don't think.
Got to set a precedent somehow, though. You know.
Oh yeah.
Like I think that's just ultimately
the officiate precedent is like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's like up down.
No,
there is no precedent.
He is also a younger player, though. It's like if you let him away with that once now, and you start to create this trend, he becomes that player who's just kind of like people just don't have a good experience with him, and it's not Chris Olave, he's a defender for the Saints. Like he's quite dirty himself, and Mike Evans are always at each other's throat, and it's just like that they're going to be at it before they even get into the game, and that's
I'll be honest, I kind of miss that stuff, like the old school, like Ocho Cinco and Chad Johnson and stuff, like just ripping each other's gold chains off and like fist fighting and stuff like that. Like, yeah, like
bring back the good old days of 90s American football in early 2000s
exactly.
when no holds barred American football.
It's like I'm going to smack your gold rope. Like
I want to quickly apologize to anyone who's watching who has epilepsy, because I am conscious that Kevin's t-shirt has been flicking twisted. I don't know if you can see that, or is it just my screen?
I've been ignoring it.
Yeah. So hopefully nobody
just cut me out of the stream.
Hopefully nobody is having a fit right now watching this video tomorrow morning on YouTube.
Just put a disclaimer up before the episode
contains flashing imagery.
So flashing everyone.
We are recording on Monday as opposed to Tuesday, which means we will not have the chance to review the Monday Night Football between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. We can, however, preview it. Although by the time this podcast airs on Tuesday morning, the result will have been decided. I like this one. There's two good quarterbacks going up against each other. They haven't played the cleanest football. Baker Mayfield had a hot start to the season, but then when he lost his two main receivers, he did struggle with interceptions. 3 picks last week. Patrick Mahomes, as Twist rightly pointed out, is the league leader in interceptions thrown. It's just, I mean, you can't, given the way the Chiefs been playing and that they've been playing on a shoestring really with no any big stars, you have to like the Chiefs, but at the same time you don't want to count out the Bucs, Kev.
I mean, I am counting out the Bucs. I'm not going to lie to you. But they don't have anything really to offer against a team that, look, is only going to get better. Look, the Chiefs are only going to keep getting better. That's unfortunate for the rest of the league right now. They're 7-0 and they're not going to get any worse. I don't see it happening. Now I think that they will get humbled at some point, and I do hope it's a divisional game. I hope that's when they get humbled. I just don't see them. I could see them going unbeaten the whole season. I really could.
Apart from Christmas Day against the Steelers, which we are now officially 7 weeks out from Christmas Day football on Netflix.
Oh, I thought we were officially calling that game already, and it's a Steelers win already.
That's a loss. No, Baker's coming in tonight. He's bringing himself a big old piece of humble pie for Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, here we go again.
Yeah, I said last week they're going to combine. It's going to be a shootout, and Baker's going to get the game-winning touchdown on a scramble. And he's going to send the Chiefs that big old piece of humble pie.
Oh, I don't know.
Now, by doing so, he's going to create a monster, and Pat Mahomes won't throw an interception for the rest of the year.
See, your prediction of the Browns beating the Ravens was just,
I'm just going mad.
Absolutely ludicrous. That it was so crazy that it could have been, that it just could have happened, and it did happen. But I just do not see Baker Mayfield outplaying the Chiefs tonight, given how Mahomes has been able to improvise. He's been able to make magic happen with the few pieces that he does have on offense.
But it's also in Arrowhead Stadium as well. So
it's in Arrowhead on Monday Night Football. That place is going to be absolutely rocking.
Yeah, but Pat Mahomes is making magic by passing the ball to the other team.
Yeah, but when the other team on offense can't do literally anything.
Yeah, I still think Baker's going to humble the Chiefs tonight.
I hope so. I hope you're
right. You have to fall at some point, and I think now, as I said, it's going to happen, and them being humbled by the Buccaneers is going to create a Kansas City monster. and they're going to go on this horrendous run through the rest of their schedule because of it. But I think it's definitely going to be Baker's humble pie tonight, and it's not this talking.
We were threatening to break open the whiskey earlier, so before that happens, let's quickly pick one game each. Twist that you're looking forward to most coming up in week 10. We are officially into double digits of the NFL season
already. Thank God there's still 70 plus hockey games. Outside the Steelers Commanders, that's obviously my pick, but outside Steelers Commanders, it's got to be Thursday Night Football, the Bengals and the Ravens. Bengals coming off a win over the Raiders, which cost Luke Gatley his job. The offensive coordinator's job with the Raiders on a short week facing against the Ravens, who just look like they're out to hurt people now after losing to the Browns. That's definitely going to be one. If you've got nothing going on Friday and you're willing to stay up like stupid o'clock in the morning Irish time, absolutely catch Thursday Night Football, Bengals, Ravens.
Kev?
I think, not that I think that it will go any other way than the Lions winning. I would like to see CJ Stroud and the Texans give them a run for their money. Obviously excited about the Vikings going down to Jacksonville because I think that will be a game where we really kind of transcend as a team, just because Jacksonville don't really seem to be much of a threat to anyone this year. Although now they did obviously run. Who did they run close this week?
The Eagles.
The Eagles, yeah. That's they did run them close, but at the same time, the Eagles seem to be kind of getting back into a talking point again a little bit, even though they were asking for Sirianni's head a couple of weeks ago.
Well, they even were last night. I mean, Sirianni had a couple of 2-point conversions that they missed and left it quite late, despite the heroics from from Saquon Barkley, that the reverse leapfrog.
If it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, Sirianni would not have his job by now.
No, insane, just absolutely insane. All right, boys, I think that's just about everything. Good podcast there. Apologies for anyone listening and watching for technical difficulties. I will try to make this edit as smooth as possible. It's going to be great crack editing this one. But boys, as usual, always fun talking football. Kevin, I will see you in Munich bright and early on Sunday morning. For anyone who is traveling over to the game, keep an eye out for us. Keep an eye on our social media for all the good content coming there. Twist, we wish you were coming with us. We're going to have to get you to the next international trip once your beard grows back.
On that topic, hit up the Gated Return socials for the November link. Donate or join the team or both, or laugh out.
There's 40 euro right there right now, so let's try and double that by the end of this week.
We also have the Gaelic Gridiron watch party as well coming up, so we'll all be in attendance at that for sure. So
yeah, you can call me ludicrous to my face for all my crazy calls.
For anyone in the Loudmead and North Dublin area in particular, this is for you. It's the first official NFL watch party to ever happen in Drogheda. I'm glad to be making that little piece of history in my hometown. Lads, as usual, thank you very much, and I will see you all very soon.